Hello everyone, this is a talk about watercolor. What I'm showing here are some sketches from a watercolor sketchbook, and you can see the way the colors are interacting. So some of the basic terms that you will learn are things like wet into wet, dry into wet, a wash, a flat wash, lifting. There's many techniques in watercolor. With this video, my central objective is just to get you in touch with the medium in a very basic way. So with painting, or like with many things, that when we begin to study something, we're inundated with many terms and many ideas. And then with artistic techniques, a lot of times there's kind of fancy techniques and things you may have heard of. So those are all wonderful, and as you move along, great things to understand and study. But the primary thing to learn and think about is that you're working with a piece of paper and water, and then pigments that you're dispersing, and you're loading a brush with water and then pigment, and then you're spreading that and dispersing that onto a piece of paper. That's what you see in these examples that I'm showing you. So in a very essential way, it's good just to get familiar with how that feels, how the water interacts with the paint, and kind of how it feels to spread water on the piece of paper. Yesterday I was practicing something, and I spread some water out on a piece of paper. I have a watercolor sketchbook. And then I noticed how extremely fast it was drying. And there was a window open behind me, and there was just enough air coming in that was acting as an agent to dry my paper. So those will be things that you'll immediately learn. And then with that, you're learning how to stage the layering of a watercolor, how wet to make the paper, what are the conditions like around you. Are you working out in the sun? You know, if you work outside in sunlight, you're going to notice a big difference. Sometimes you might be working on a humid day, a cloudy day, and you're just waiting and waiting for your paper to dry so you can put on the next layer. So I would suggest that you get to know that and get to learn about those initial problems. On your brushes, there's many brushes, but the best brush is the brush that you're comfortable with, and the brush that flows and kind of allows you the movement that you want when you're creating your strokes. I prefer natural brushes, but synthetic brushes work, and I've used those too. So it's up to you. There's a certain bounce to a brush, and it has a certain feel to it. And you'll just get used to it as you try different brushes. I strongly suggest that you use the best brushes you can. It does make a difference, and it's not that you have to have super expensive brushes, but the inexpensive ones sometimes just don't work very well, and then you become frustrated. So buy the best materials you can. In terms of the paints, buy the best paints you can. So here what you're seeing are different watercolors I've done. I've employed washes, and in like the skies and things, I'll often do like a wet into wet and then drop colors into the sky, like I'm dropping pinks and blues into it. I'll lift the piece of paper and move the paper to move the paint. When you do a wet into wet, you don't necessarily have to have your painting just stationary on a surface. You can pick it up and move it a bit, because sometimes with the paper, the water will want to settle. The paper, as it gets wet, might buckle, and then the water might settle in that valley, and then that'll produce an area where there's a stronger, more paint and it'll become different. You won't get as even of a tone as you want. You'll get used to that, but you'll want to initially think about how paint moves around as you're using it and enjoy those properties. So keep going with it, enjoy the process, enjoy the adventure of it and the experimentation, and I think you'll have a really fun time with your watercolor journey. I wish you well. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.